there was a time when a bunch of exiles were flooding into Zaire. I'm trying to remember exactly where they were coming from. Anyway, there's about 1 million people came from another African country to Zaire. They were refugees from the wars that were going on in their country, and Pat goes over, gets on the TV, and he's had this group Operation Blessing, and he's leaning in. He says he's showing photos of all these refugees. They were dying of cholera. So Pat comes up with this plan. He says, "Well, I'm gonna get a team of 100 doctors, and if you'll support me in this, send in your $20 a month or whatever for this campaign, we're going to go over there and we're going to send medicine. We're going to rescue these people. We're going to help these people dying of cholera, et cetera, et cetera." And people responded with millions.
Wow.
Okay. Now, this is in the book. There's photos in the book. The majority of that money was spent to move gold mining, diamond mining dredges and gold dredges around on planes that were supposedly taking in relief supplies. The pilot of those planes, the guy named, I think his name was Hinkle, kept a diary of where they traveled to and what the purpose of. About 90% of the flights were to support this gold mining venture that Pat started with Mobutu.
Unbelievable. Like
the people who were on the ground helping the cholera victims, they said, "Oh yeah, CBN was here. There were about a handful of people, and they were walking around with Bibles. They had one tent, and they brought probably a lifetime supply of Tylenol, and that was the medication they were providing." And they said, "You don't treat cholera with Tylenol."
What the heck?
But
David,
I'm serious.
This sounds a little bit evil to me. that is so.
That's ego. It's ego. It was ego, and Pat was holding up photos that were not CBN people. They were one of the relief groups like Doctors Without Borders or one of those groups that were there doing legitimate work. And he's talking about, us flying relief. We're the first on the ground. We're there. It was just a pack of propaganda.
Right.
And then when that turned up zero results of diamonds in Zaire, Pat goes to Liberia, and he partners up with a guy named I'm having a senior moment here.
Another butcher.
Anyway, I just had it on tip of my head. He was the president of Liberia. The guy ended up being convicted of crimes against humanity later on. He did the same thing as Mobutu, butchered people. I think he was charged with 13 counts of crimes against humanity, and I'll think of the name in a minute. Anyway, Pat gets into a gold mining business with him called the African Development Corporation, and they're doing the same thing over there. And he was the reason, Michael, that he was doing it. He was scared and he was desperate because he realized when he was going to die, money was going to dry up. So he's trying to get these businesses going, and he thought, well, if I can get a thriving gold business or diamond mining business, that'll bring revenue into CBN and keep it alive.
Right.
He tried to corner the oil market in Southern California. He spent millions. And I go back to this thing about ready, fire, aim. Okay, this is his way of operating. This guy Nelson Happy was a Regent University administrator, and he was a businessman. He comes to Pat and tells him about this oil refinery he could be bought out in Long Beach, California, for pennies on the dollar, and they can put some money into it and rehab it. They can offload oil from the Long Beach harbor, refine it, and they could corner the gasoline market in Southern California, the oil industry. Pat's like, marvelous, let's do it. They don't research it. They don't do anything. They go out there, they buy this oil refinery. Anybody with a laptop computer could have researched it and found out it was a decrepit oil refinery. It was the most it had the most EPA violations of any oil refinery. In fact, the neighbors within like about a 5 mile radius of this oil refinery, back in its heyday, were complaining because the pollution coming from it were ruining their paint jobs, were making their kids sick, everything. But hey, well, we're going to go buy it and turn it around, and we're going to corner it on my. They spent. I'm quoting these numbers off the top of my head. Probably $40 million into this thing. Never processed a single drop of oil. In fact, the state of California shut them down before they could even start because of all the violations they would have had to, regulate and stuff.
Wow.
It's just on and on and on and on and on, these things. And it was like the benevolent dictator had all the power in the world. He had the money from the fundraising, and he was doing these things. He did a multi-level marketing
Well,
thing.
of course. I assume that was on the list somewhere. Because I mean, it seems like these people, like these giant televangelists that end up being crooks, it's so sad because it seems like they start out, at least, a best case scenario, trying to help people, and then their God becomes, instead of the God of Christianity and helping people and Jesus Christ and all these things, and it just turns into the God of money and greed.